I was filled with hesitation as I paused at the double doors to the Special Services building in the medical center. It was a huge step in the right direction in terms of figuring out what was going on with my mental health, but it seemed I was paralyzed, my reluctance to take the first step obvious. A group of 3 people walked past me, chatting amongst themselves as they opened the doors, the last of the trio hesitating, holding the door open for me. Not wanting to be rude, I took a deep breath and crossed the threshold, nodding and thanking the man as I walked past him. We stood as a group at the elevator and the doors opened and they entered. I hung back, still not fully prepared to take the plunge. "I'll take the next one." The doors closed and I leaned against them, feeling weak. I reached blindly out with my hand and groped for the call button of the elevator, finding it on the 3rd attempt. In the few moments I had before the elevator made its appearance, I mentally psyched myself up for what was to come. The elevator arrived and I walked in without looking, bumping into someone as I did so. I looked up and saw no one was there. "Get a grip on yourself, Cal. You know you're not crazy, so don't let those thoughts in. You must have just run into the wall." The elevator arrived at my floor and I left it, looking for the directory. I found it and looked for the psychiatric section. The directory was divided into units, and the psych area was in Unit 42. Something about that number made me shiver for no reason, and I reluctantly turned and walked in the direction of Units 35 through 45. Looking down, I couldn't see the face of the person who stopped me.
"Don't do it. If you go there, you'll die."
I thought this was another hallucination and was prepared to continue, but as I took my first step, a firm hand on my arm caused me to halt.
"Please, don't go."
I looked up and saw the face of a middle-aged woman, deeply lined with wrinkles, bags under her eyes. I was caught off guard, speechless. The woman looked at me with hopelessness, shaking her head as I pulled my arm free and continued down the hall in a daze. There was something about the woman that I couldn't quite put my finger on, and it felt quite important. I finally arrived at the Unit 42 reception area and went up to the desk, no one in sight. There was a bell off to one side and I rang it, and a woman poked her head up from under the desk, fully alert.
"Hello, Cal. We've been expecting you. Just have a seat and the doctor will be with you shortly."
I suppressed a shudder as I tried to figure out how the receptionist knew my name. We stared at each other for a time, no words being spoken, and finally, I gave up and took a seat opposite the reception desk. I studied my shoes, trying to keep my mind off whatever was going on, and then I happened to glance back up at the desk and saw no one. I went back to staring at my shoes, attempting to trace the path of the laces as they went through the knot, but lost interest when a voice broke my concentration. "Cal, welcome. Come right back through here." I looked up and saw a man of about 30 standing patiently waiting for me. "Don't be shy, come on. I'm Dr. Crockford, and I'm here to help," he said in a voice of much experience. I slowly stood, stalling for as long as I could, as the earlier hesitation came back in spades. I could only psych myself up to a certain degree, but this was just too much. I followed regardless, as the voices in my head told me nothing bad would happen. Despite the voices being an irrational part of my mind, it seemed that they had some of my wisdom in there, prompting me with the most logical option. He led me down a plain white corridor with doors lining either side, and we came to the end of the hall, where a single door sat ajar. He gestured for me to enter, so I did. I took a seat and surveyed the room, unease growing as I saw the lack of credentials that would normally line the walls of any regular psychiatrist's office. He sat down opposite me, and then my mind jumped out the window, leaving me just to sit there and try and smile and nod, as I had no idea what was happening. I got home and went straight to my computer, where I opened up the internet browser and began to browse the message board that I normally frequented. I scanned each thread, and then came across one about the medical center where I was being treated. I decided to post a query, inquiring what was so wrong about Unit 42. Within less than a minute, I had a response, but it wasn't the one I was expecting. Here's the conversation. Thread, what is up with Unit 42? Safehouse 22 has joined the chat. Safehouse 22. You want to know about Unit 42, right? Leaf Fox 93. Yes, what's wrong with that place? Something's really off. Safehouse 22. Is this a secure IP? Leith Fox 93. What does that have to do with anything? Safe House 22. They're watching everything we do. You know that, right? I won't tell you anything unless you can assure me this is a secure forum. Leith Fox 93. It is. I have a Class 3 IP masking software in use. Wow, you seem even more paranoid than I am. Safe House 22. You can never be too careful these days. Anyway, if anyone finds out that I'm helping you, I'm dead for sure. Leith Fox 93. WTF? Safe House 22. I'll put it in terms you'll understand. I'm a patient of the same psychiatrist you're seeing, and I'm telling you this because I don't want to see another life ruined. Dr. Crockford is a strange man. He's good, don't get me wrong, but his methods are a tad unorthodox. If he were in a standard practice, you would see credentials and degrees lining the walls, right? Well, there are ways to become a psychiatrist without going to school for it. Leith Fox 93. I don't know, how solid are you? Safe House 22. I was a colleague of the good doctor until about 6 months ago. We got in an argument over the best treatment methods, and I guess he didn't like what I had to say, so he had me committed to Unit 42. You know those doors that are on either side of the corridor that leads to his office? Leith Fox 93. Yeah, what about them? Safe House 22. They aren't offices, they're padded rooms. There's only one vacant room, and that's meant for you. It used to be mine until I found a way out of it. Once you get in too deep there, you'll never leave. Leith Fox 93. I call BS on you. Safe House 22. Whatever, I tried to warn you, and now I don't feel like telling you what to do to save yourself. Good luck, tool. Safe House 22 has left the chat. I was a bit taken aback by this whole odd exchange. I surmised that this was just some run-of-the-mill small-time troll with too much time on their hands. I was still thinking that when I received an email notification, and I opened it. The sender was marked as safehouse22@gmail.com. There was no subject, and only one line in the body of the email. Jeanette Wilcox, you're on your own. I was puzzled by this, and so I didn't give it another thought for about a week, when I found myself once again outside of the double doors. I was less hesitant this time, but I still entered slowly, the feeling of unease once again prevailing. I walked along the corridor on the second floor, and suddenly the name came back to me as I passed a framed series of pictures on the walls. I stopped and turned around, spying the name Jeanette Wilcox below a black and white photo. The whole series of photos was the staff members from years previous, and the photo center frame was none other than Dr. Crockford. I looked below his photo, and at the bottom of the frame. It read, 1985, Staff. I stared for what felt like an eternity, not a thing able to break my concentration, that is, until my alarm went off, signifying I was late for my appointment. Sighing, I wanted nothing to do more than just go back to my car and skip the appointment, but this one was important, so I forced my legs to carry me over towards the reception desk to sign in. I stood at the empty desk once again, and saw a door towards the other side of the room open, and Dr. Crockford stood there, smiling. Right on time, Cal. I see that you're just as eager to continue on with things as I am. Those words, mingled with the smile, sent chills all through my body, but I managed to fake a smile. This time, I let the doctor lead while I lagged behind, trying to peek through windows on the doors of either side of the hall. I couldn't see very well, the glass in each window being clouded with age, but when I came to a door just beside the office, I could clearly see what looked to be a cell, nothing but a desk, bed, and toilet. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see a scratched nameplate to the left of the door, and I could barely make out the name. Dr. Jeanette Wilcox. I turned my head away, trying to put the fear out of my mind, and came face to face with Dr. Crockford. He was still smiling, but I could see a look of irritation and perhaps some mild worry in his eyes. Coming? He asked, and I nodded, trying to hide my fear. The inside of the office was dark as we entered and sat down. I glanced around again, trying to find something to distract myself with. A voice startled me from my distracted state. So, Cal, I went over the notes from our last session, and I think I may have come up with a possible line of treatment for you. I stared with wide eyes, the only words making sense being possible and treatment. Are you okay? You look a little pale, Dr. Crockford asked with genuine concern on his face. I didn't respond. I Everything seemed to close in around me and my vision began to blur. The last thing I saw before blacking out was the smile that grew on his face. I awoke sometime later with Dr. Crockford standing over me. "Welcome back." "What happened?" I asked. "You had an anxiety attack and fainted. I'm going to give you a sedative to help stabilize your heart rate." Before I could object, he had already stuck the needle in my arm and had depressed the plunger. My head began to spin and I felt exhausted. "Do you want to continue?" I could only nod, feeling too weak to talk. He began to talk about what he thought might be going on with me, and I just nodded with each statement, not even able to hear him as he spoke. I blacked out again, not able to keep my eyes open. When I awoke, I was in a white room with padded walls, a desk with a computer on it, simple bed, and toilet. I shot up, wincing from the pain in my head as I did so. The light in the room was blinding, and when I could focus again, I saw the doctor standing over me and a woman standing at his side. I looked in confusion as I recognized the woman standing next to him, the same one from last week who tried to warn me. "You're awake. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Cal, but you're going to be here for a long, long time. I won't be looking after you anymore. My colleague here will. I'll leave you two alone. I have other patients to attend to." With that, Dr. Crockford turned and left the room, closing the door behind him.
Hi, Cal. My name is Dr. Wilcox. How are you feeling?
She held out her hand to shake, smiling as she did so, but looked towards the door. I looked too, and saw no one looking through the window. She moved in close, whispering frantically.
I told you not to come here. What were you thinking?
I gawked in surprise at this, not able to tender a coherent response. "What? Who? Mana?
Oh God, he gave you a sedative, didn't he? We need to get you out of here as soon as we can,"
she said.
"See this computer? At 9 tonight, turn it on and open the web browser to the chat forum you used last night. I will contact you then. Do you understand?"
I still couldn't speak coherently, so I just nodded. She nodded as well, and then walked towards the door.
"And if they try to give you anything, don't take it. Even if it's just food, a drink, anything at all, just refuse. I will explain more tonight."
She produced a keyring from her pocket and exited, locking the door behind her. I sat there, dumbfounded. "What the hell is going on?" I said into the empty room, but what it really sounded like was, "What the hell is going on?" I was trying to piece together everything, including the thing from last night. My watch beeped and I looked down at it and saw it was 9 o'clock. I stood up for the first time, feeling slightly dizzy as I sat down at the desk and powered up the computer. On the keyboard there was a sticky note. I read it. "If you ever want to leave, hide yourself." I immediately knew what that note meant. I went into the command prompt window and inputted a series of characters that, when read by the computer, would mask all IP communications. I opened up the browser to the chat forum and saw it had a new message. Safehouse 22. "Are you there, Cal?" Leaf Fox 93. "Yes, what the hell is going on here?" Safehouse 22. "I'll explain, but first I need to know that I have your complete trust. That is the only way that I can help you, Cal." Leaf Fox 93. "I don't know. How can you prove that I trust you?" Safehouse 22. "You stupid tool. Just trust me. My name is Jeanette Wilcox. I was Dr. Crockford's assistant from 85 to 90, the same day that prick committed me. I broke out of there a few weeks ago and finally mustered up the courage to go back and confront him. When I came into his office, he greeted me with a warm smile and big hug, as if I were just an old friend rather than this. He didn't even remember anything that had happened and was chatting it up. I decided to play along with it." Leaf Fox 93. "How could you play along with that psycho?" Safehouse 22. "I was just getting to that. Anyway, I thought if I could match his charade, I could maybe walk out of there alive. A little later on, Dr. Crockford asked me if I wanted to take on any new patients. He had been talking about you, and I saw myself in what he described, and knew that he would pull the same shit on you if he could, and now the answer to that is apparent." Safehouse 22. "Are you still there?" Leaf Fox 93. "Yes, just give me a second to digest this. Why did you agree to take me on as your patient?" Safehouse 22. "Because I didn't want an innocent person to go through all of this. I was only thrown in because I didn't agree with his methods, but you've done nothing." I've read your file, and there is a way that I can help you, but I need to get you out of there first. Leaf Box 93. When can you get me out of here? Safe House 22. I'll give you your instructions tomorrow when I see you. Just remember, you need to be completely clear-headed, so don't accept anything from anyone that comes in. I will bring water for you tomorrow. You need to keep your strength up. Leaf Fox 93. Okay. Leaf Fox 93 has left the chat. When I awoke the next morning, I felt much better. The light coming in through the window wasn't nearly as harsh, and I felt sharp and coherent. Not much longer after I woke up, the receptionist from the first appointment came in carrying a covered tray and setting it down on the desk.
I brought you some breakfast, Cal.
No thanks, I'm not really that hungry.
Really, you need to eat.
I said I'm fine! I shouted, and she seemed to take the hint. Before she closed and locked the door, she said one last thing.
Dr. Wilcox will be in to see you around 1.
The aroma of the food still hung in the air, and my stomach rumbled. I nearly ran for the door and called back to the receptionist's nurse, whatever, but I realized I wanted to get out of there, so I sat tight. At 1, I heard a knock on the door and saw the face of Dr. Wilcox staring in. She looked down, presumably looking for the correct key, and then I heard the door unlock and she entered, looking rather tired. I started to stand, but she stopped me.
Sit down.
She pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to me. I opened it and read silently. I will get you out of here tonight, but you need to follow my exact instructions. Before I leave, I'm going to give you an injection that will render you unconscious. Don't worry, you need the rest. When I arrive tonight at 10 p.m., I will give you a white coat and a badge. Put it on and follow me. Don't bring any attention to yourself, just blend in. Talk to me about your new patient, Cal. You're new around here and have some questions about how to treat Cal. When we get to the exit, walk the other way and remember, we never met. I folded the paper back up and gave it back to Dr. Wilcox, who nodded and put it back in her pocket. From the same pocket, she produced a syringe and poked me with it, depressing the plunger and emptying the contents into my body.
Lie down and get some rest. I'll see you later.
My eyes began to feel heavy as I saw her leave the room and lock the door. When I woke up, it was a dark and stormy night. I sat up and checked my watch, seeing that it was just a few minutes before 10. A bright flash enveloped the room, and I could see the outline of a head in the window of the door. A loud thunderclap followed, causing any other sound to cease existing. The door then opened, and there stood Dr. Wilcox, as promised. She entered the room and closed the door. Handing me the white coat and an ID badge, she raised a finger to her lips, telling me to keep quiet. I put on the coat and walked towards the door, Dr. Wilcox following close behind. She ushered me through the door, pushing me rather hard.
Come on, hurry up! I have a bad feeling that something's gonna happen.
Her words were cut off with a gasp, and a moment later, she collapsed to the floor in a heap, a pool of blood slowly spreading. There was another flash of lightning, revealing a manically grinning Dr. Crockford holding a bloody knife. I turned and fled, still trying to keep quiet, but when I heard laughter behind me, I gave up and screamed bloody murder. A door behind me opened and I heard someone collide with it, letting out a grunt. The knife clattered to the floor, sliding to a stop right at my feet. I didn't hesitate to pick it up and continue to run. I still stop by the medical center some days, not really knowing why. I think I owe a huge debt to Jeanette Wilcox, rest in peace. A month after my escape, I moved west and settled in a town in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. When I could finally bring myself to do so, I decided to try and find another psychiatrist that might be able to help me better understand my condition. I finally found one, and was found to be of completely sound mind, with the exception of the acute post-traumatic stress disorder that I now suffer from. Sometimes I go back on the internet to the chat forum where I first inquired about Unit 42, and I see my past conversations with Jeanette, or to be more technical, Safe House 22. Looking back, I now see the irony of her username, as she was my safe house, my hero that saved my life. I'm weary about going back east to try and find her grave to pay my respects, as I have no idea what awaits me there, so I would rather write about my experience with Unit 42 as a warning to those back home. Watch out for Dr. Crockford.